Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Edge of Comfort podcast, where we explore the adventures, perspectives, and philosophies of world travelers. I am your host, Lee Thornquist, and thank you for listening. Today, we are joined by Henk van Dillen from the Netherlands, and wow, are you in for a treat. Henk is an adventurer and blogger on topics like travel, advice, personal growth, journeys around the world, and other fun stories. He believes that anyone can live adventurously and can really do fun things with their life without much money or having the best equipment. Now, he proved just how possible that this belief was in 2015 when he set out on a journey to cycle from Rotterdam in the Netherlands all the way to Singapore. Now, saying this sounds cool, but when you actually look on a map and see how far these two places are from each other, you might think or yell out, wait, he did this on a bike? Henk's journey lasted 360 days, and he cycled 16,000 kilometers, or if you use miles to my American listeners, 9,941.9 miles. And this brought him across 25 countries. Now, he started all of this on a second-hand bike that cost only 195 euros. He had no visas, no specific route plan, didn't really have any advanced gear, not a whole lot of money, and primarily camped out each night. So, spoiler alert, he was able to complete this incredible journey, and he rode into Singapore on January 21st, 2016. Since arriving back home from this journey into the Netherlands, he's gone on some other big adventures, like skateboarding through Scotland and through India, as well as doing some other adventures that he calls micro-adventures. He is now preparing for a 30-day cycling trip through the Russian Arctic Circle. I'm just getting cold thinking about this. He departs from St. Petersburg in Russia on February 4th, and he's cycling north to Alta in Norway. So depending on when you're listening to this, he may already be deep in the Arctic, or hopefully have completed this successfully. His goal is to do this cycling route that is over 1,900 kilometers, or 1,181 miles, in 30 days. And some of the conditions that he expects to face include only 2 hours of sunlight a day, temperatures as low as negative 25 degrees Celsius, negative 13 Fahrenheit, extremely snowy roads, and is also planning to camp out each night. So our conversation does focus a lot on his Rotterdam to Singapore trip, but we do end up by discussing his Arctic Circle journey. If you want to find the full show notes and links to some of the things that we reference in this episode, you can find them at edgeofcomfort.com/EOCP14. That's the number 14. And if you want to go show Henk some support or check out some of the his pictures and journeys that he's written about, you can find those at henkvandillen.net, and I'll also include a link to that on the show notes. So, let's get into it. Thank you, Henk, for sharing so much about your adventures. Best of luck on the journey to the Russian Arctic Circle. Thank you for listening, and let's go.
Good morning.
What's all the commotion?
Wow.
Are banana fish big?
Same, but different.
If I can't scuba, then what's this all been about?
Welcome to the Edge of Comfort podcast with your host, Lee Thornquist. Welcome, Henk, to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. How's your morning out in the Netherlands going?
Yes, perfect. I just started with some salsa music, and now I have my coffee like ready here. So yes, I'm doing pretty good. Thank you.
Awesome. I know there's a lot of things that I want to talk to you about today. Just looking through your blog and some of your past adventures, which are absolutely unbelievable for anyone, whether you're doing adventures like that or you're not. But I guess just to start off, there's so many things that I want to ask about, but I guess to start it off, there was one story that I was reading about that maybe at the time it wasn't funny, but maybe you can laugh about it now. But Can you tell me about when you were cycling through China and some sort of SWAT car pulled up on you?
Oh yeah, yes. That was. I think that was probably the most crazy experience for me in traveling. I was cycling up in the south of China, a little bit in the south, around around the Chengdu area, but then closer to Tibet. And yes, at one point I just got two black cars stopped, and it was weird because it was like in the middle of the mountains. There were only villages there, so it really looked like some organized thing that like a SWAT car stopped before me. They jumped out and they grabbed me from my bicycle and they handcuffed me, and then they put me in the car and drove me to the police station, and that was really crazy. And
go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
yeah, it's a great story. I mean, when I came to the police station, they started to ask me questions. I mean, I couldn't talk to them in that moment because they were Chinese and they didn't speak any English, and I was just sitting between like two SWAT people with this kind of Uzi looking guns, which was a bit weird. At the time, I kind of knew like, oh, this is just one of this Chinese strange stuff happening, which what normally does not happen in the Netherlands. And at the police station, I had to wait for like for half an hour when a girl came and she translated all these questions, and it was about the you have this Uyghur province in China, right? You know that?
The what problems?
The Uyghur province.
Oh,
it's
Uyghur
province.
Yes,
it's in the west of China. I mean, it's a Turkish minority of the Chinese people, and I used to cycle there, but there were some terrorist attacks at the time I was there, not close to me, but just in the province, and I think from there, because they showed me this photo from a Uyghur person, and they asked me like, do you know this person? And I think probably it has to do with my mobile phone SIM card, that they followed me all the way, and they were like, he bought a SIM card in the Uyghur province and then cycled through. I mean, and then he's moving to all China. I mean, they follow everything. They know everything about phones. You have to register your SIM card with a passport and stuff. So it's all this information they have and they use. So I think from there they just want to check me and ask me about what I was doing, and that took me a day from cycling, and I had to be 3 hours from the police station, and after filling some forms, I need to do my fingerprints on the forms, and I didn't know what's on the forms. It was in Chinese, so I couldn't not read it, but I was like, I want to continue cycling. I don't want to end up in some weird place or something. So after that, I just put my fingerprints on the forms, and I tried to ask them, can I please make a photo of you guys with me, because this is a great experience. I mean, now I know that I'm being free but they didn't want that. So at the end, they put me back at the exact location where they took me from the road. And that was a really, really, really exciting day.
So you were essentially a suspect of these terrorist attacks?
Well,
or did you ever figure out the exact reason why they had you in there?
No, I did never. But I because they showed me this photo from a yoga person, and I was in the other side of China, so it has to do with some kind of what they told me about this stuff happening, but they didn't tell me what I was what my relationship was to that text, or that why they suspected me in any way, or why they wanted to interrogate me. They didn't tell me that. They just did what they needed to do and asked the questions what they needed to ask and fill in the forms they needed to fill in. And I asked, like, what is, why, but they didn't give me a proper answer for that. So I was like, okay, just let it happen. It's all good, and that's it. So that, yeah. So I still don't know
That's
why
so
it's
wild. When they came to get you so you were just cycling along on the road, they pull up. Was it civil at all, or did they literally just grab you and your bike and like throw you in the cars, or were they like do any explanation before they grabbed you?
No, I think the reason that I felt that I was a suspect is that they really, like, this Jeep, the guy in the Jeep, he ran the Jeep before me, so I couldn't cycle any further. And in the back, a car stopped, and that was with the SWAT police officers who jumped out of the car. And then there's two guys took me from the bicycle, one of each side on one arm, and the other guy, he took my bicycle, and one of these guys started to handcuff me, but I was like, what's happening? So I was just standing and cooperate with these guys, because I was like flabbergasted. I don't know. I was just like, what is happening? And then when they took me in the car, they uncuffed me and they just hold me, and they put me like in the middle of the back seat of the black Jeep. And it was really funny because they need to do this. I mean, I think they probably, someone told me, like, we have to check this person, and then they did it. And when they did it and they did all the formal stuff, it became like a really like funny experience, because they started to take pictures of me, and this Jeep had some like DVD screen, and he played like Westlife on it, kind of I don't know why, but and he was kind of proud of putting it on. And that's when they took me back, and that was really funny. But yeah, still it was, yeah, they just grabbed me from my bicycle in one moment.
Oh my gosh! I mean, at least they returned you to the same spot, but oh, that's so crazy. I mean, were you just like frightened at that point, or were you so confused of what was going on that you were just like confused and just I guess, what were you feeling when that happened?
Well, I had one experience before, because I like some weeks before that, I cycled through the Taklamakan Desert, and that's the desert which is in the Yuga province, and it goes all the way like all the way like kind of near Tibet, and most travelers, most cyclists, they don't choose to cycle through the desert, because it's an enormous desert, and there is no villages, no much people, only one road going. But because of that I was cycling there with a German guy, and we came to the villages, and there the people really were like really, I don't know, each village we stopped, like tons of people were around us to check us out, what guys we are, I mean, what we were doing there. And at one point always came, and it was always the same story again in each village, that like all these people came around us, and at one point there came a guy, he had a kind of strange hat on, and he was not looking like a police, but I think he was like an informer of the police. And when he came, all the people disappeared. They were kind of afraid from him. And at one point, in one village, the guy stopped us and he said like, okay, you cannot continue because we want to ask you some questions. So we were like, you are not pleased, so you're not gonna stop us. So we wanted to continue, but the guy really aggressively didn't want us to go further. And at one point, also the police came and asked some questions. And then at that time, that was a few weeks before I was arrested. At that time, they put us out of the area, like the region, because they have different regions, and all these police officers are head of some region. So he was like, okay, I'm gonna put this guy out of my region, so it's not my problem anymore. And that happened before, so I a little bit knew, like, okay, they just wanna check me. I mean, they just wanna know what I'm doing, you know. And if I don't act strange, and I just show them, okay, I'm just a traveler. This is my visa. It's all good. I was like, it's just when I took me from my bicycle, I was just thinking like, this is another weird thing. But it's a little bit exciting as well, because sometimes you heard about these stories, but you know, because China is still a little bit communist and they rule the country as a little bit as communist. So you don't know, you know, because if it was that I disappeared at that time, no one would know where I was, how it happened, and it was just, if they put me in jail, then I'm just gone, you know. It's not that some country of anyone can do something about it. It's just that, oh, this guy has disappeared. Is he kidnapped? Is he, you know, you don't know. So I was a little bit thinking, if they can do anything with me and no one would know about it. So that was the exciting part about it. But for the rest, I was just, you know, thinking it's okay. It will be okay. They're just, and they offered me a lot of tea and cigarettes to I don't know, to just stress or something. I don't know, but actually they were nice people in the end. But it's just that they had to do this somehow.
Okay, so I do want to get back to some of those, like some of the more frightening things that you did face on that. But first, did you face a lot of pushback and setbacks in terms of from people, whether that was police or government officials or border control people? Was there a lot of struggle with dealing with people along your trip?
Well, I've been cycling from Europe to Singapore, and I think a couple of countries, if it's about difficulties with custom and officials, then I remember Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan really good, because Turkmenistan is it's just, I see it as like the North Korea of Central Asia. It's just that country you don't know how it is and how it's been ruled, or somehow there are a lot of questions, and if you come there, police officers are sitting on tables alongside the road, so it looks a bit so strange that normally I'm not used to that, and there at one time I camped with a Dutch guy I cycled there with, and the immigration police, they came to take us from our campsite and wanted us to get to a hotel. So in Turkmenistan you need to register. They say that you need to, and that's the same for Uzbekistan. You need to register where you sleep. So each time you go to a hotel, they give you some paper where it's written that you slept there, and then you need to collect them all from each night that you slept in the country, and then you need to give them to a custom when you leave the country. So that's the bit difficult part, because I'm cyclist, I camp, you know, so I don't have these papers, and I'm also like, I'm not going, because you want me to sleep in a hotel, I'm not gonna sleep in a hotel and pay for it. So there were some difficulties with the police about camping and sleeping in a hotel, and for the rest, not much, except that if talking about difficulties, that I was robbed twice in Iran, not with a gun or something, but just like Like one time I just cycled into Iran. I mean, I think there was the third day, and I was there, and people told me a lot of stories about Iran. They're hospitable people. The country is great. It's a great culture. And then a police officer stopped me, and he asked me like, "Do you have enough money with you? Because you cannot use your bank card in the country because the country is on a sanction, So you cannot go to a bank automat and just get cash. So you need to bring some amount of cash into the country. And when you apply for a visa, they ask you what amount of money you're going to get into the country. So at the moment, the police officer stopped me. It was like, for me, it was, making some connections like, okay, this is just a normal check. So I let him count my money, which was like the most stupid thing I ever did in my travels. And then he gave me back the money, but instead of giving back $500, he gave me back $300. And when I was standing there, he was running in his car, and then he was leaving. And at the end, it was not a real police officer, but just a guy pretending to be a police officer, and just robbed me from $200. If that happens, if that moment, if you're cycling, I mean, Iran was in the summer, it was a desert, it was hot, so it cost me a lot of energy to get through the day with cycling. And then if you have an event like this happening, then it's like a little pushback, like, okay, if this happens more often, that people misuse your situation or your vulnerability. I mean, I'm just alone there on the bicycle in a new area, so everything is new and everything is like, oh shit, what am I doing? This is crazy. I'm in the desert. Normally I'm living in Holland and it's rainy all the time. It's just flat all the time. And now I'm in mountains, I'm in desert. It's amazing. And then such thing happens. It's like a push down. And if that happens a lot, it can, break your energy at some point to keep going. But fortunately, I just had this once with money and once with a phone, and that's it.
So when you face things like that, and on your trip, it seemed, just from looking through your blog and some of your videos, that you were very open with people about your situation. You're from the Netherlands, and you're cycling to Singapore. You're doing it budget-friendly. You're camping. And you're being very open with people and locals, and obviously very trusting of other people with your situation. And like you said, you're hoping that people don't take advantage of that. Did you ever, was it like that the whole time? Were you open with people the entire time, or did you question if you should maybe be closed with people? I guess when you're interacting with people and locals, did you ever feel like unsafe telling people about what you were doing?
Well, yes. Like each time, if I experienced, if I met new people, then I was a little bit afraid, of course, that they aren't going to rob me or misuse my position. But I think I've experienced it a lot of times, and especially when I came into Turkey. Like, the people are really, really nice. And what I experienced is that in the city, people are more cold. And in the city, like, there are more people, more criminals, And in the areas out of the city, in the lands and in the villages, there's no such thing as criminals, from what I experienced. I mean, there are always people who want to misuse your situation. So yes, I'm always careful, but I'm always trusting people. From another journey, to give an example, from another journey, I was in India on my skateboard, and I came into this touristic city. I don't know the name again, but it's like the yoga capital of India, and I came there, and then one person, he came to me and he asked me like, oh, can I take you to some place, because I want to get you on a tuk-tuk and let's have a talk together. And then at that time I kind of mistrust the whole situation, because I know the stories from backpackers taken from the road and being in some situation of people are going to gamble, and then at one point they take you to a bank and say like, you have €1,000 debt and we want to have it now, because otherwise you have a big problem. So I try to be open as much to people, but in the cities I'm always suspicious about something happening, because especially in tourist city there are all these traps, that people misuse you in some kind of way. I mean, you hear a lot of backpackers going to Southeast Asia for the first time in their life, and the first week they experience something so bad that they need to go back because they are robbed from their money and they have such a bad experience that they don't want to travel anymore. So yes, you need to be careful in some kind of way, but you need to in my travels, and especially in my cycle journey, you understand when someone is really caring about you, and you understand when someone is just caring about you for their personal reasons. You can sense that if you experience like sometimes with new people, and especially in countries as Turkey and Iran, it's like people are constantly inviting you into houses, and constantly I said yes, and constantly I was in their houses sleeping, and like one time I needed to do a little hitchhiking in Iran, and there were two trucks, and one truck took my bicycle and the other truck took me, and for like 100 kilometer, and yes, I was scared, like, oh, maybe the other truck disappears, and there goes my passport, there goes my camera, all these things. And it was like, then I'm feeling scary, and I'm feeling like, oh shit, when this happens, it's gonna be really bad. But if you are like driven by fear, you cannot enjoy your travels. I think that's just it. So you need to be a little open, but you need to be open, and you need to learn that just some people can misuse your situation. I think it's like that. I think it's just like experience a lot of times. And again, if I go out of the big cities, I trust people. I just trust people like 100%. And sometimes, yeah, it's then sometimes I lose money and I lose my phone, but it's just a phone and just some money.
With the robbery of your phone, because that sounded like it was a pretty tough, a pretty tough thing that happened to you, because you were hitching a ride by this guy on a scooter, and you had a pretty good conversation with him and kind of seemed like a little buddy, and then after 2 hours of getting a ride by him, and it seemed like you did put a good amount of trust in him, you exchanged numbers, and then to have him just go off and steal your phone, and just totally, you just realized you were just played for the last 2 hours. How do you go from that situation where you do put your trust in someone and it just is totally shattered, and then move on, and then in the next scenario be able to still trust someone? What's your mindset going into that, and how did you get past that total shock to you?
Yeah, well, that's a good one. I mean, yes, that time I was meeting a guy on a scooter, and again it was in the summer in the Iranian desert, so temperatures were going up to 50 degrees, and it was a hard time to go through that. And then this guy helped me on his scooter, and there was also like a big headwind, so it was all the circumstances were tough. And this guy took me with his scooter for 2 hours. We had conversations. I had an Iranian letter written about my journey and about that I raised money for endangered species. And at some point I trusted the guy. I was like, hey, he's a cool guy, he's okay. He just, maybe he's bored and just he's interested in tourists. A lot of people are. Yes, and at some point after 2 hours, there was a situation that he asked me that he could call someone, and I was like, take my phone. And the whole time his scooter was not going past the 25 kilometers an hour. So I was like, if he's gonna, I thought about, at that moment, I thought about it, like, I'm giving my phone now to him, and he can take it. But I was like, no, he cannot take it, because his scooter is not going past 25 kilometers an hour, so I can track him down. But the guy was smart, and his scooter was going like 40 kilometers an hour, but he just didn't go past that kilometers during that I was riding with him. So then at one point he called someone, and then he was driving off, and I was going mad after him. And I was not mad because I was losing my phone. I just had like a 3 days editing of a new video for my blog, and I was like, no, all these videos, all this editing, all this hard work, I'm not gonna lose this. And I didn't accept the thing that my phone was gone. So I cycled mad after him, and then at some point I was like, no, I have to accept that I lost it. And then at that point I really was crying. I mean, you can check out one of the videos, like episode something, Iran.
I think it's the 4th episode.
The 4th episode, yeah. So I made 7 episodes of the whole journey. Just each like West Europe, East Europe, Turkey, Iran. I made all these countries. I made an episode, or these continents. So I basically filmed myself crying about it. Like, no, it's not happening. No. And then the feeling of someone really putting your trust in someone, and then that guy misuse it in any way. It's a feeling I don't, it's the worst feeling ever. And that's why I always say, be a little bit careful, trust people, but don't do stupid things. And the stupid thing I did then was giving him my phone. So I just had to put my phone on me so he could not steal anything, and then nothing was happening. And then the same with the fake police officer. If I did not give him the money, but I just showed him that I have the money and didn't give him, like this, just the simple tricks are making the difference, because in some point they see, like, okay, I cannot rob him, so I will leave. But just to be a little bit careful about it. But that at that time I was emotional. I was sad. It was between 45-50 degrees. So I hitchhiked to the next city. I was getting so I had one shot with my GoPro of his license plate of the scooter. So I was like, I'm gonna chase this guy. So I went to the internet shop, and this was the crazy thing. What happened after it? In the internet shop, I connected my GoPro to the computer in the internet shop, and just took one screenshot of his license plate. And then I told, the owner of the internet shop, he started a conversation with me, and I told him that I would just rob for my phone. So at that moment, the guy, and this is incredible, he closed his internet shop. It was the middle of the day. He closed his internet shop, and he took me in his car. So there were 2 people also in the internet shop. He put them out, saying like, I'm gonna close. So he took me with his car to the police station, and he showed the police the photo, and he told me the story. So the police said like, oh, but this is a license plate from another region, so we cannot do anything for you. So, and more crazy, the guy drove me to another region to go to another police station, which was the right region for that license plate. And at that moment, I came into a big police station, and it was also crazy because there were still people walking around with big chains on their legs. It was like being in some middle-aged prison or something. And then the police officer there, he was advising us to go to a local dealer of the scooters because he could not give the information of the license plate. And at that moment, the guy was really disappointed. I was like, let us go. But the guy from the internet shop was really like, I need to help you. We're going to get your phone. And it was like, this thing to get back my phone was his biggest mission on that moment. So, and then at one point, I convinced the guy, it's okay, it's just a phone. And I can live with that. And then he drove me back to the city, and then I continued cycling. But that was crazy. But because I was so emotionally, and I was even crying. And then after there was another person which basically stopped his whole life, closed his internet shop, and started to help me to get back my phone. That was the moment that I regained positive thoughts, and I was like, this is great. I'm just living something, and I'm doing something, and I'm not having a boring job. I'm just wandering in a desert to get my phone back. It's perfect. So, but yeah, it was. I think that moment, it's really, yeah. If you have that moment, at that time I thought, if this has happened like 3 weeks in a row, then maybe I would cut the journey and go back, because it's not worth it. But yeah, in the end, it's just pushing through, and then someone else is giving you the trust back you lost, and then it's okay again.
That's incredible. Not that your phone was stolen, but that just that quick turnaround and how quickly you can gain or lose that trust with people.
Yes, and that's it. And it's, sometimes you think, this is a bad world. There are bad people, and it's all shitty. And at some points you think, this is the most beautiful place. These are the most incredible people, and this is the best food I ever taste. And I think that's just the perfect thing about traveling, because these ups and downs, I really like them. If no one harassed me, no one stole my phone, I didn't have these great stories about feeling bad about it, and then suddenly feeling good again, because life is not that bad, and traveling is great, and it's just that this downs and these ups, it's making it great.
Absolutely, yeah. We definitely will come back to Iran, because that's something that seems like had a pretty big impact on you as a whole. But before we do that, let's take a step back, and can you take us to early, whenever this happened, whether it was 2015 or before, when you started to formulate this idea in your head that you were actually going to cycle from Rotterdam down to Singapore, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but this journey took you 360 days. It was 16,000 kilometers, which for my American listeners is nearly 10,000 miles, and across 25 countries. So how did you even begin to formulate this idea, and at what point were you like, okay, I'm actually going to do this?
I think it was to do with it goes all the way back to 2005. When I went off school, I started as a bricklayer, and that was my job. And then at one point in 2005, I get the opportunity to do a cooperation project with Suriname people in Suriname. So I went there for 3 months, and that experience about in being in another culture, we really had it difficult, because the Dutch mindset is working really hard, and I think the American too is like, getting up early and working too late, and and in Suriname there is a totally like different perspective on that, because it's hot, it's another country, it's another culture, you cannot work so hard because the days are maybe too hot or something. So I really experienced like another life there, and I learned so much from that experiences that it awoke some curiosity to explore more like that. I didn't know what or how, but I just wanted a life where I'm not going to be in one place and just surrounded by the people I already know for some years, but I wanted to, explore new cultures, explore new countries, and at one point I wanted to stop being a bricklayer. So I just, at the time it was 2008, and then I went from I started the University of Applied Science. It's like a more practical university, and I started to study economics. And at that time already, I had the idea of going for a backpack journey in Australia. But at the time I started my education, it was still 4 years to go. So I knew that I was going to travel, but I didn't knew how it was going to be. And in that 4 years, I did a lot of research about traveling because it was a kind of dream, and I was just dreaming along and reading from travelers' experiences, reading books, and just, you know, just know that, you know, what opportunities are there to travel. And at one point, I came to the blog of Tom Allen. It's tomsbikestrip.com, and he really he also kind of make videos. He did he tried to do a round the world trip, but get stuck in Iran and then married an Iranian girl. That's his story, and he made a documentary about that. And from there, I was like, okay, well, this is great. I mean, if I'm cycling, I cannot lose anything of what I'm going through. So, I mean, if you take a train, then you're going somewhere in the train, and then you get out of the train on another point. But what's in between there, you don't know. You only see that is jungle or there's desert or whatever, but you cannot experience it because you're in the train. And I was like, oh, but if I'm going to cycle, then I would know what's there. And I would know what people live there, and I would meet them because I can get off my bike at any point I want to. And so that was great. That was like a great opening of like, hey, this is a great way of traveling. And I also like to challenge myself, and physical and mentally, and that's also in there. And at that point I knew, okay, I'm gonna do a cycle journey, not a backpack journey, but a cycle journey. And then from having the idea to go to China, to go cycling from Beijing to somewhere in Southeast Asia, I get one night I talked about it with my friend, and then my friend says out of the blue, when we had some beer, why don't you go cycling to China? And I was like, I don't know. And then I was thinking about from hey, I don't know, to oh, maybe it's possible. And then at that moment, I became to really understand that maybe this is what I want to do. And then at one point, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to do it. And then I started to plan and started to do all the things, but I didn't have much money. So, yeah, and from there, I started to plan this whole journey. And I think it took me like, I knew from 1.5 years before I left that I was going for that journey. And also because why I choose to cycle through Singapore is that it's the most, or you have to go to Siberia or something, but, or I don't know how long the Pan American Trail is, but at least in Europe and in Asia, it's the longest possible way you can cycle overland, you know, without going on a boat or something. And maybe it's the longest possible journey in the earth. I hope so. And in that idea, I became to really interested in doing that. And then this 1.5 year I planned, and then at one point I think the most important thing was to set a date. And I set the date like 6 months before. I was like, okay, that date I'm gonna leave. I want to tell everyone that date I'm gonna go. From there, I just went.
So let's jump to the night before that day. So this is February 1st, 2015. The next day you're leaving to start on this giant adventure and trip. I mean, what was going through your head? You know, what emotions were you feeling? What were you thinking about? I know your girlfriend back in the Netherlands was going to stay there, and maybe you guys were going to meet up at some point, but, you know, so the night before you're leaving, what was going through your head?
I remember it as I didn't really know. I mean, I was getting, of course, a lot of attention from family and friends. They were all like, before the date, they were like, you know, I need to see you before you leave, and wish you good luck and stuff. And I think the whole attention from people and the whole idea that I actually was going to do it. I was already thinking about it for 6 years, and then the moment came that I really was going to do it. I don't know. I really did the night before. I slept kind of well. I could get my sleep, but I don't know. I was really excited and like it's going to happen. I'm dreaming of this like for many years, and now it's going to happen, and I don't know. And with all this attention, it's like what is going through your mind, and I didn't know how to place it, and until the moment that I left and that I was alone and I was sitting on a bench after 10 kilometers of cycling, and at that moment I was really processing like what these last days had done to me, and how it is to finally be on the bike. So yeah, it was like chaotic. My mind was really chaos in all this thoughts about, I'm gonna go as fast as possible to Eastern Europe, and I'm gonna go as fast as possible to hot temperatures, and what all was gonna happen. I'm gonna be crazy. It's something like that.
Did you have an original date that you were planning to be in Singapore? Or, because I know in the departure video, the news coverage said, and he plans to arrive in Singapore in about 6 months. It was like that was like the last line of the clip, and then I was like, well, it said his trip was almost a year. So, did you have an original date that you were aiming for? And at what point did you realize, okay, that's not going to happen?
Okay. Well, at first I was like, I'm gonna try to do this in 6 till 8 months, and yeah, the media covered it with 6 months, but because they always want to make it an even more exciting story. but I was planning it to do it between 6 and 8 months, and after a week of cycling, after 1 month of cycling, I was like, it's not gonna happen. I didn't think it by then, but I think in the journey with the first stop for me was Innsbruck. It was in Austria, and I met a great guy, and he took me to go snowboarding, and I was really like, like yesterday I was cycling and I was snowboarding in the mountains. This is great. And at that point I was like, I don't want to rush this. I cannot rush this. This might be the only journey from this like so long in my life. So I need to enjoy this. I'm not gonna go through that or cycle fast. I'm just gonna enjoy the people and experiences. And at that time I just took the time. I stopped for a few days, and then I met some people and they hosted me. And they asked me to sleep, and I was like, I'm gonna stay here. And at one point I was like, but it's not gonna happen in 6 months now. And then I was like, but I will just see what's happening. And then at one point I decided, I'm just gonna go and I will see what's happening. So I didn't have a fixed date. I said like 6 until 8 months. And then along the journey I was like, no, it's not gonna be 6 months. It's not gonna be 8 months. I will see how long it's gonna take.
What was one of your kind of get back to right before you left, I guess, but one of your biggest concerns right before you were going, or up in the planning process and preparing for this before you actually got on the bike? What were you really nervous about?
Well, that's the funny thing. I wasn't nervous about anything. I was excited about the whole idea, and I was excited about everything. Maybe the few things were going to my mind was that I went through the Alps in winter, and I was like, and I was having this H&M down jacket from €30. So, and I had a sleeping bag which was comfort 0 degrees. So a few times I was like, maybe if I'm up in the mountain and there is snow, it will be going to be very cold, and I don't know if I have the proper clothes or the proper gear to survive that. maybe that, and maybe about the visas, because the original idea was to go through India to Singapore, and in the end I went to China to Singapore because I couldn't get the Pakistan visa on the road. So because I hadn't prepared anything, I was not worrying about anything. That's the thing. And I just was excited about going and leaving. And then at one point I was like, it's going to happen and I'm going. And it's like, and someone told me before, I spoke to some people about it, and someone told me before, and she said, like, don't worry about anything, because problems you will solve when they occur. And that sentence, it always stayed with me. And I was like, yeah, but if I'm worried about something, it's like, oh, but it doesn't matter, because problems I will solve when they occur, you know, and that's what happened.
So one of those problems that stood out to me, but maybe wasn't a problem, but you talked about how, I think it was in Armenia, and you were hanging out with some people and driving around, and your bike was hanging out, and you ended up losing your Garmin navigation system. And in the post you say that you were actually incredibly happy you lost this. So, you know, from an outsider perspective, seems so crucial for your trip to help you get to point A to point B. Why were you happy to lose this?
Well, I think, you know, like life in the Netherlands, it's all about, not all, but, you know, you value like stuff, basically. You value a home, you value maybe a good washing machine, you value an automatic dishwasher and all that stuff. And I learned that from the day I started to cycle, I really like kind of unstressed about all that. And during the journey, I learned that like stuff really doesn't matter. It's when you're cycling and at the point in Armenia, I had this Garmin navigation, and it was really helpful to get me through a point. I could just point out somewhere in the map, and I was like, you know, get the route, and then I was just following the Garmin navigation. And yes, then I met in south of Armenia. It was in the at a place called Wings of Tatev. And if you ever going to travel to Armenia, remember this place. It's one of the most beautiful places in this whole area, Wings of Tatev. And there was a little spot, and some guys invited me to go into a cave and then swim in that cave, which is really amazing. And then after it, they took me to their home to slaughter a sheep and to barbecue, and we kind of drink a lot of vodka. And yes, I put my Garmin navigation on my bike, or it was already there. And from the car jumping up and down, it fell down some part in the way. But you know, this Garmin navigation, when I didn't have it anymore, I really needed to think about where am I going? What road do I take? If the road like going left or right, I didn't know. Am I going left? Am I going right? And the only way to know that is asking people. Like, is this road going to there? Is this road? So from that point, I started to ask the people more where I needed to go, and that was amazing, because from there a lot of things happened, because the people where I talked to or asked the roads, they asked me like, what are you doing? Or sometimes I could not communicate, it was difficult, but still they always had some interest in what I was doing. And normally if I cycled through, they would look at me and like, oh, what is that guy doing? But they would not communicate at me. But when I stopped, it was the opportunity to have a conversation with me. So in the end, a lot of more times happened that I met people, they asked me in, or they just like told me the road and gave me water, gave me food, and 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 from there I kind of realized that yeah, it's all about the mindset. It's all about just going there. It's not about having the proper gear. It's just about having the mindset to go to some place and really being open to ask people to help you. Because if you have the best gear, the best stuff, then you don't need other people. And I think that is making the Western society a bit hard, because we all can survive on our own. We don't need the neighbor. We don't need other people, because we are happy to fix it ourselves, and we can. But when you are in a position that you can't, you need other people. And there's always one thing I learned, that people will always help you. I mean, this is like our basic nature, that helping others gives us happiness. So when I didn't have this navigation anymore, people would talk to me and they would help me with finding the way, and the people were happy that they could help me, and I was happy that someone wanted to help me. So it basically made the whole journey better. And that's what I kind of experienced after that the navigation was gone.
So I'm just curious. So, sorry, kind of jumping around here, but once you got back, and where probably cell phones and obviously navigation and technology is a very prevalent part of society, did you have almost kind of a shock with how much people interact with it, or did you try to continue that mindset of not relying on technology in your day-to-day life for obviously things that you don't need it for, such as navigation or other things?
I when I came back from the journey, I had a kind of mindset to kind of not be dependable on any technology. But I think there's a difference between life here in the Netherlands and life on the road. Because in the road, if you don't have it, you just go by it and then you live with it. But I think here in the Netherlands, I kind of needed to work, you know. So if I, for example, don't have a phone and read my email on my phone, then I'm for example, later in the response. And because I'm later in the response, other people will do this job better than me, because I'm always slow, because I don't have a phone to answer real quick. So I think it's really hard to not go with the technology in when you're settling, you know. It's almost impossible. You cannot settle without a phone or without a computer. I mean, life is now kind of circling around the idea of having a computer and having a phone. So that's almost impossible. But I learned that in my journey, I don't have to buy an expensive navigation to have a great journey or to travel. I don't need a phone to go traveling. So that's why for me, adventure and travel is really to step out of the daily life, to step out of the technology I need to use to do things, to a point that I realize that, you know, we are part of nature and don't need it. So it's basically a little bit a balance between that I learned from this journey, and that I learned from losing technology and then living without technology.
Okay, and so, because along the journey you were uploading videos and you were uploading, writing blog posts. How were you? Did you bring laptops with you, or obviously you had your GoPro and phone? And I guess, how were you able to continue this blog and writing and uploading those with Wi-Fi and everything? What was your work process like for the blog?
Well, this is kind of funny, because how it started is like, you know, that you know, there's one thing about technology. I mean, it's great, but if it works, it's great. But when it's not working, it's the most annoying thing ever, right? So, so I started this journey with a laptop, and it was a small laptop, and again, I had I did this whole journey from, I think, probably around 5,000 euro, including flight back from Singapore and purchasing a bike and gear. So I bought this laptop. I think it was 80 euro, and it was a small Windows laptop. And I remember that the first time I tried to write a blog in Germany, that I was so frustrated that at one point I walked out of the place I was. I threw the thing down on the ground and I stamped on it, because I was like, this is not gonna happen this whole journey. So so I basically destroyed the thing because it was so slow and it was not working. And from that point, I only had I had an iPhone 4, and I had a Nikon camera D32 3200, so D3200, and a GoPro Hero 3. And the good thing was that with the GoPro Hero 3, I could manage to get a Wi-Fi connection with my iPhone, so I could manage to transfer the videos from my GoPro to my phone. And that worked the same for my Nikon camera. I had this Wi-Fi device which I put in the camera, and then I could make a Wi-Fi connection with my phone. So what I did after I didn't have a laptop anymore, and that was, I think, the second day of the whole journey, I started with a system to transfer photos on my phone, to edit the photos on my phone, and also to write. When I was in my tent, I would get my iPhone and started to write stories. And then at some point, after maybe 5 days camping, I went to a hostel, or I just made a stop to get coffee on the way, and just at the point where there was internet. And then there I wrote on my phone with WordPress. I wrote the stories, and the thing I did was I used Flickr.com to put my photos on. So I could, I had this app where I edit the photos, and then that goes the same with the videos. I all edit the whole episode. They are all edited on an iPhone. I mean, it was not good for my eyes because I was looking for hours at a small screen, but it worked. It worked, and I didn't need a laptop. So I transferred the videos and the photos to my iPhone. With iMovie, I edit the videos from the GoPro, and some I made with my phone, and then I put them together, and I spoke into because you have this audio thing, so I spoke text into the videos, and I even managed to subtitle them with another app. I mean, it was really crazy. It cost me a lot of time, but at the end, I managed to make like a fun episode, 7 of them, with my iPhone and iMovie, and with subtitles. So it's amazing what you can do with just an iPhone. And with the photos, I edit them and put them on Flickr. And from Flickr, I could get an embedded code and put them in my blogs. So I didn't have to upload them on my blog. So I just used the embedded code from Flickr. And that's how I did it. So I wrote on my iPhone stories in my tent. And then some days I came to a place where I could have internet. And then I loaded, and then I put all my photos and text online, and the blog was up in the air.
That is quite an impressive system. Getting really thrifty with it. So that blog must have been. It's cool to read back, for at least for myself, reading through that now, 3 years later, and it must have been really nice for your friends and family back home and people who are following your journey along the way, to kind of keep updated and let them know what's going on. And for most of your trip, you were cycling solo. it sounds like a few times you met up with people or just met people on the road that you'd cycle with for a few days. So even though you're keeping people updated on the blog and having a few random connections on the road, how are you dealing with being solo for so much? And did you ever have really strong feelings of loneliness? And I guess were you dealing with this?
I think it was, yeah. I mean, yeah. What you were saying. I mean, if you're traveling solo, it's never gonna be solo. You always will meet someone, or getting along with someone who's being on the same mission and share a little part. But I think I've did some journeys I did with someone else. Some shorter journeys I shared with someone else, and that's great because you can. I mean, if you maybe it's yeah. Let me give you an example of one time I really needed someone to share something with. At the time I was cycling through Tibet. At one point there was a sign on the road that said like I don't know the nature name of it. Maybe you do, but it's called like it's a hot tube in the mountains. A spring, or how can you say that?
Oh, a hot spring.
Hot spring, that's it. And at one point there was a sign on the road saying like there is a hot spring in the mountains, and I was like, and it was cold. It was 3,000 meter high, and it was raining, and it was like the temperature was around 0 to 5 degrees, and I really was like having this happy moment of yes, I'm gonna go to this hot spring and I'm gonna enjoy it. So I went into the mountains, and after 1 hour there was like a hot bath in the mountains. And it was, there were no people, nothing. There was just a hot tube, and I undressed myself and I went in, and I was like, this is the greatest moment ever, that I'm in the mountains, that I'm having a tough day with rain, with cold, and now I'm just like, this is paradise. And after 10 minutes, I was like, okay, this is paradise. This is a very lonely paradise. And I was thinking about, having my friend sitting next to me, popping a beer, cheering, and celebrate that we found a hot spring to jump in. But instead, I was just there alone, thinking, I need someone to share this with. So I think this is also like, it goes a little bit back to also the movie Into the Wild, You know the movie Into the Wild?
Yeah.
I think it's the one of this movies a lot of travelers use as an inspiration. But at that moment I was really thinking about that guy, because he was there in Canada in a lonely place, and also was there alone, like having this life where he dreamed of like for many years, and then at one point really living it, but then came to realize that he couldn't share it with anyone. So, and that's the same for me. I was in the hot tube, like feeling this is paradise, this is completely where I dreamed of for many years, and now I'm kind of here and I cannot share it. And so these moments, and I had like more of these moments, or when it's really tough, when I was in the desert, when it was 50 degrees, or the moment after my phone got stolen, I needed someone to share my emotions with, just to cry a little bit with, or just someone who would understand what I was going through. And I think if you solo for many, many, many times, there comes a moment that you feel, well, I personally experienced that then if I'm only being solo, like at one point there comes a moment that I'm feeling miserable about having a life that is the most amazing ever, but not be able to share it with anyone. But I learned that in my journey, my journeys, that there is no such thing of traveling solo, and that's the most. I mean, that's the beautiful thing about it, because I'm doing this journey alone, so I can make all these decisions myself, and I can stop at one point and doing whatever I want to do, and continue at the moment I think this is a bad place, I need to go. These are bad people, I need to go. This guy is really frustrating me, I need to leave him. You know, that kind of choices you can make. So you never are dependable of someone. When I decide to do a journey with another person, I cannot say like, oh, but you are now frustrating me, so I'm gonna leave. No, you are doing this together, so you won't go your own way. But if you're traveling solo, you can always do that, and that's what I enjoy more of sharing the whole experience with someone else, because I can just do what I want, and I can take all the risk that I want to take, and I don't have to argue with someone else if I have to do something or not. And the other in the other side, I was cycling alone for 5 days, and at one point I was like, oh, I'm feeling lonely. I need to speak to someone else. And then I was just stopping in a city, going to a hostel and meeting all these great travelers and sharing the stories I wanted to share with. And that made it like amazing, because it took me from moments where I felt lonely and miserable to moments where I could, it's the same thing that maybe I can compare it with if you're taking a hot shower, it's comfortable. And when you go out, it's like, yeah, it's getting into the cold again. But when you take a cold shower, it's miserable. But when you finish the cold shower, then it's not miserable again. And I think that's with this, I wanted to make a connection with traveling. I want to take the cold shower, so feeling miserable. And then when the cold shower was over, I was in a city meeting great people, and then I felt really happy about sharing with people. And at some moments I was talking to another person. I was like, oh, Henk, you have to shut down, man. You have to cut down your words because you're talking too much. But I realized then that I really enjoyed like talking to someone else. And I'm a kind of introvert person. Maybe you not noticed that, but I'm feeling introverted, and I'm doing stuff alone like really often. I need some space to live by myself and to do things and to get back and think about things, and then step into the world again or something like that. So yes, the balance when you can make all your decisions yourself, when you can just go any place with meeting someone and sharing it and then leave again, is great. But I think you need to be careful, because if you're doing this too long, you kind of get disconnected from other people. And even if you meet people for a short period, they're not going to be friends, so they don't understand where you come from. My girlfriend knows where I'm come from. We grew up in the same village, and she knows where I'm come from and what journey I made. And when I'm having a tough time, I can talk with her about it, and she would understand, because she really know me. The people on the road I meet, they only know me from the words I say to them. So and that makes it. And I think that it's important for a longer period that you think about that, because at one point you'll be like really alone, disconnected from your family, from your friends, and only having your friends on the road, which is a great thing if you really want it and want to have that lifestyle. But I personally don't want to lose a connection with my family and with close friends, but still having this own adventures and choosing whatever I want to do and live that for some period and then go back to having these connections again.
Did you feel like you were getting away from that at all during this year on cycling to Singapore?
Yes, it was not tough. I mean, yes, with my girlfriend, sometimes I had this experience like being somewhere and being alone and thinking about the great moments I have with her, and then thinking I want her now here. But I was not. It didn't made me homesick. So I didn't have any moment in this whole year that I was feeling homesick. But sometimes you have these moments that you think, I need this person in my life, or I need this person in my life. So yes, I had it. Like some parts I had like, okay, I'm missing my friend to have these conversations, or to just smoke some weed and laugh or something, and I cannot do it now, and I'm just alone now. So yes, I had it.
So yeah, I mean, the people you meet along these types of journeys is so important, and I feel like that's definitely something that you write about in a lot of your posts and make clear. So is there anything that you feel like, maybe not even just this, the Rotterdam to Singapore trip, but in many of your different adventures and some of your travels, is there like one or two things that you feel like these experiences have really either taught or solidified about other people or yourself or people's connection to each other?
Yeah. I mean, if you're traveling solo, you really learn what you value and not, So, so at moments, yeah, you kind of understand where you come from. I mean, the person who you are, I believe it's a mixture from how you grew up, what your parents taught you, and how you experienced your youth, and what people you hang out with, to to where you are, who you are. And you can be like someone who likes to talk and being really extrovert, and you can be someone who is really on himself and really introvert, and I learned that in my travel, I learned that it's not such thing as introvert or extrovert. It's just everyone is a mixture between, and that's all. I mean, it's basically what your parents gave you, how your blood is, but also the experience you have. And if I'm traveling and being on the road, and then especially when I'm doing it by myself, I really learn that, like, each time I do these journeys, I learn a bit about myself, and I learn a bit about how I, for example, back in the days, I was really scared to just talk to a stranger, just in my travels also, and just to walk up to someone I've never met and just talk to him, and I was always feeling like, oh, I'm not enough, or I don't know what to say, or I'm not an interesting person, just being like not confident, and yes, in my journey, because I put myself in uncomfortable positions. I was like being in a city, and I was like, I need to meet people, and then I just pushed myself to go out and to go to a bar and just sit down there. And when I sat down there, I was just like, oh no, now I have to talk to people, how I'm gonna do that, and why would anyone want to talk to me? And then I just push myself, and I think I've done that my whole life, to push myself to these moments where I needed to do something, because there was no such thing of not doing it. So I really needed to talk to someone, because otherwise I would feel miserable for many days. So I pushed myself, and then at one time I felt like the urge to talk to someone else is bigger than the fear I have to not do it. And I think that's the great thing that I learned from that I learned in myself, and also like meeting other people, how they interact, how they listen. Some people are really being self-centered and only talk about themselves. Other people are really listening and living what you are saying, and yes, and I think if I'm meeting people now, there is always something in this character of the person that reminds me about someone else I met before. So I'm like, if I meet someone new, I'm like, this character type is a little bit reminding me about this guy when I met him there, and that's helping me to make a connection with this person, because for the conversation is like really like unconscious, is that we kind of know each other. We don't know each other, but we kind of know each other, because I am just thinking about another person, and that's what I reflect in a conversation. So we kind of already have a conversation, and we didn't met and we didn't know each other. So and I think that's what traveling is doing, especially when you're on yourself. You can travel with someone else, and then it's more that you're sharing it, and then you might be more giving your attention towards the other person that you're traveling with. But if you're traveling solo, you're constantly looking around for new experiences, and that's what's make all these new experiences. I mean, you're getting all these experiences, and you're learning from it, and you're learning a lot of new people, and you're learning how people are. And I think the most nice things to know is that even if we are Chinese from Iran or anywhere in the world, we share a lot, and that's that we are all humans, and we just grow up in a different area with different values and different ways of dealing with anything. But in the core, we just the same. We breathe, we talk, we eat, and we try to survive, and that's it.
I think that now would be a good time to bring up Iran then again, because I know you said that the immense hospitality and just the friendliness of the people in the country really surprised you and had a big impact on you. So can you just tell me a little bit more about Iran and your experience biking through that country and the things you did and people you met?
Yes, of course. I mean, Iran, I've heard, before I went there, I've heard from other people that is like, it's so different, because the borders are closed. It's not influenced by any Western influences, and I didn't read much about Iran before going there. I just wanted to learn everything, and that's what I do often in traveling. I don't read too much about the place I go, because then I have already thoughts about the place, and I wanted to experience the place and learn from the people who are living there, and that's what I did for Iran. And the thing I learned from the Iranian people is that there is this giving to each other, and it's not only because I'm a guest and I'm a tourist, and because they are just nice to tourists or to guests, is that what they also do to each other. I mean, for example, if you're going into a subway in Tehran, you will notice that people, especially for the older people and the woman, that when it's busy in the subway, that someone will give his seat to someone else. And that's just a little example of just taking a little bit more care of each other than just living our own life and just living beside each other and not really notice what we are doing. I mean, this is and I learned that that in this also in the Islamic culture, a guest, a tourist or a guest is an important person. I think it goes all the way back to back in the days when the Islamic prophets were also traveling, and because the people in the Middle East, they traveled a lot into the desert also. It's in their culture that when you have a guest, you treat the guest really well. And I've sometimes heard that a guest is almost the same as a friend of God. So when you will meet a guest, you will treat the guest like a king. No matter where the guest is from, what religion he has, is that you treat the guest like just like an important person. And I already experienced it somehow in Turkey and also in other countries, but especially in Iran, there is a thing that people really want to take care of you. It's like cycling in Iran, and after the border, someone stopped in his car, opened his window, and said, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "What does this guy want from me?" But he was just checking, like, if I was okay, if I need anything, because he knows the country, he knows the place, so he could help me if I needed some help. So he just was asking me if I need any help. That's something I never experienced in the Netherlands. I mean, yes, if I have a flat tire and I'm standing somewhere, of course someone will help me and ask, like, can I help you, or do you need a warm coffee because it's cold, or some kind of that. But in Iran, it's more that it happens all the time. People stopping, people giving me water in the desert, people inviting me, people just and it's the most thing is just asking, like asking, are you okay? Asking, can I help you? Asking, here is some food, please take it because you need it. And at some point I really learned that this is not only that they just like having Western people in their country, but it's just like that this is a part of the culture, and this is what they do. Of course, every culture has its downsides. I'm saying that I'm not saying that the Dutch culture is not a nice culture, but it's just that this is the things I experienced in Iran. What really amazed me of all the people who invited me, and they just gave me so much. And sometimes I was coming into a village, and I spent the whole day visiting family from a person, because he just wanted to show his guests, me, to all his relatives. And each place I was, they took me in, and they gave me food, drinks, and they took me to another place, and that was all the time. To one point that I was cycling, and I was like, no, I need to do some miles, I need to go to some place today, because if I'm only saying yes to all these invitations, I will not leave Iran in before the end date of my visa. So I needed to start to say no to people, and that was a really hard thing, to say no to people. And and when I came back from the journey, I really processed all this experiences, and I've met some friends from Iran, and I told them about my journey to India on a skateboard. And the reason why I was going to India, because I met a woman in Iran who went traveling to India later, and then met another person, and then they decided to marry, and they invited me from the Netherlands as a guest to come over to India to be at the wedding, and that's how I came more. I made some friends in Iran, and after it I had more conversations about how they live, and why it's such a hospitable country, and it might also be that they have a government who's really, they have a very traditional government, which is really hard to deal with for the modern people. Women have to wear a headscarf. People cannot use Facebook. They're just not allowed. It's blocked. And for example, parties with women and men together, they are forbidden. So it's somehow it's really scary to live there. But in the other, because it's like that, there are a lot of things that happen because, for example, as you are Iranian living in Iran, you cannot go out and have a beer in a club. And that's not saying that it's not happening. It's not allowed. So what the young people does, they make homemade beer. They get into the car at night and they drive around in the city and they flirt from car to car. They're just playing music, drinking sickly beer in the car. And that's the way of going out. And it sounds silly, but it's really nice. Because it's like stopping at a traffic light, opening your window, exchange phone numbers, and having a new girlfriend, for example.
Did you ever go on one of these little rides or party rides? You did?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. And it was for me it's I took my girlfriend to Iran last year, and we were there for 1 week because like you were saying, I really was impressed in the country, and I wanted to show my girlfriend how it is there, and so we went for 1 week, and then my friend from Tehran who hosted me back then, they took me into the car and drove us around, and it's nice. It's like driving around, and especially in Tehran, there's one road. I don't know the name of the road, but there are a lot of lights, and the road is known for young people driving around there in the car. And it's on the one side it's scary with the alcohol, but I think the government knows that there are a lot of young people driving around there and even drinking, but they let them, because if it's not seen in public and if it's just under the radar, it's just happening, and then it kind of is okay, I think, for everyone. And again, these are my personal thoughts. So yeah, maybe other people are thinking differently about it, but that's what I think about my experiences. But there's just one road and people driving around and just having like this music on, the window open, playing hard music, and just having fun like that. And it's amazing. And also there are a lot of house parties where just friends, go into just to some place and then just have beer and they dance, because like dancing in public is also not allowed. There's even one story of guys who went dancing on a roof and put the video of the dancing, they put it on YouTube, and then they got arrested by the government because the government wanted to show that it's not allowed and you don't do that. I mean, that's just weird. But because of the way it's like that, people do a lot of other things to just have fun, and that other things are like illegal, but illegal makes it a little bit exciting, and then you feel that, it's like sitting in the back of the car drinking the beer, and then at one moment like the driver saying, "Oh, put down your beer, man, put down your beer, you cannot put the beer at the window, you just have to put it down, be careful." And that the whole thing makes it really exciting to do.
It's an adventure in itself.
Exactly, to just go out.
I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about your upcoming journey, but real quick, just a quick question, don't need any explanation, but what was one of your favorite places that you camped out at?
That was the south of Armenia, what I was talking about, the Wings of Tatar. I've put down a camp, that was an amazing campsite at the with a lot of mountains around me, And by the way, you can see the photos on my Flickr page or at my website. And one time I took the effort in where was it, in Croatia, the Croatian coast. I took the effort to take my bike and all my stuff over some rocks, and there you get the view of the sea with the islands, and then the sun going down was amazing. And also in the at the Thailand coast, it was really beautiful to camp because there are a lot of beaches. I mean, Thailand is known for its touristic, for its touristic mass people going there and celebrate and having all these beach parties. But there are a lot of unknown beaches where I cycled, and I just could camp there, go out for a swim, come back, eat and sleep, and on an empty beach with tropical temperatures. That's amazing.
Oh, that sounds terrific. We could talk about, I mean, each of these countries you've been to. If you went across 25, I mean, we could talk about each of these for an hour, I feel like. But I want to make sure that we do talk about the Russian Arctic Circle adventure a little bit. So you are booked to St. Petersburg for February 4th?
Yes.
All right.
It's I think 10 days left, and then I will go to St. Petersburg, bringing with me my bike and some some really warm clothes to go cycling there. Yeah.
And so, I think from one of your posts kind of describing it, so you're attempting 1,900 kilometers in 30 days. Each day only has about 2 hours of sunlight. The max temperature is about -5 degrees Celsius, with minimum dropping down to dropping down to -25. Very snowy, not very inhabited. So how did you come up with this idea, and like how are you preparing for such an extreme adventure in terms of the elements?
Yeah, well, to go back when I came back from Singapore, I like the year after I came back, like from a year of traveling and trying to settle again. It was pretty difficult. I was happy to come back, but I still was like, was this the highlight of my life, you know? Because I just did an amazing adventure. I dreamed about it for many years. And then I was like coming back and having this emptiness of, oh, this is something that I did and I will never do again. And until now, I cannot accept that I did something amazing and will never do it again. So after I came back, I started to look for a balance between having adventures and travel and starting a life here, because, you know, I have a girlfriend here, and it's not nice for her that I'm leaving a year again. So I want to balance having a job, having a house, and just being in one place in Rotterdam, and still being excited about doing crazy things and being on the road and having crazy adventures. So I thought about a journey that I could put in an amount of time where my boss at my job would, you know, be okay with, that I would leave for some period and then come back and then still work. And so I thought about what things I still want to do, and there are two things I still want to do, and that is, one is cycling in America, especially cycling all the way from Canada to Argentina would be a great adventure, but it would take a lot of time, and maybe in the future. But for now, I was looking for something smaller, but with the same excitement. So then I needed to find something that is taking or being more, I don't know, extreme than only to cycle along beaches with sunlight. So I thought of what I want to do is having one moment of my life when I'm cycling in Russia, and I also want a moment in my life where I can see the beautiful northern light. So I put that together and came with the idea of going for a really extreme adventure. And also that is, I mean, it's I see it as some kind of, Zen meditation journey where I'm only cycling in cold weather, and where I really need to get used to the natural surroundings, get used to cold, and knowing how knowing how I can protect myself from cold, from wind, no sunlight. What does it to me? Am I going to be depressive? Am I going to be, I don't know. And the whole thought about this being sleeping in -20 temperatures is something that really excites me, because it keeps me awake. Each morning I take a moment to meditate for just 10 minutes, or just to start my day, not going into my day directly, but just start my day easily. And then I'm thinking about what I'm gonna do. And if I meditate and think about nothing except just that this is it, then I would get bored, I think. It's just me wanting to have something to look forward to, which is crazy. And now I meditate and think about being in the Arctic Circle in Russia and not knowing what's going to happen. So I think a combination of all these things makes it that I want to do such an extreme adventure, and in just 1 month to come back and start working again.
Do you always try to have something then to look forward to, whether it's in a month-long adventure, or I know a big or a section of your website is dedicated to micro adventures. So do you always try to make sure you have something on the horizon that you can plan for and look forward to, or have you found that when you don't have something like that, it's when you maybe get into some motions and enter a more depressive state?
Well, I just, like the depressive state, I don't think you can really, sometimes you just feel down. I have it, and then it's a period of feeling down, and then there comes a period of feeling good. But I always, in the spirit of feeling down, just live like there is not anything that takes me down. Just ignore the emotions or the feelings that I feel depressed, but just doing the same thing as when I'm feeling good, only it takes more energy. So yes, like one of these great concepts, it comes from Alistair Humphreys, and he kind of made the concept of micro adventures. He came up with it, and that really inspired me to. I need to accept that I'm here now. I'm in the Netherlands, and I'm building up a great life with a job, with an amazing girlfriend, and that's a choice. That's a conscious choice I make to be here. But I cannot accept that this choice will just cut down all these exciting adventures and traveling by myself, because I wanted to do it by myself. And being here at one place and still having adventures. It's the Netherlands. Yes, it's flat. Yes, it's rainy. But there is a lot of things to do here. There are a lot of beautiful nature parks where I can go for just a night cycling. I can go to the seaside and just camp out one night at the sea. Just for the record, it's illegal, but if no one sees you, it's okay, and it's really enjoyable. But so I'm always looking for new experiences, and yes, I'm living in a city now, and I don't meet a lot of travelers to share the ideas and dreams with. So sometimes I just make a micro adventure. The last one I did, I went to Belgium because I heard of a woman and a girl who stopped her house, everything, who just had a bicycle and some stuff, and she went working at farms, ecological farms, as a volunteer. And she don't have any money, and she just lives like this, and she goes from place to place in Belgium and the Netherlands. And I was like, I need to meet that woman. I need to hear her stories and hear her ideas. And then I going cycling to Belgium for 2 days, and then I camp along the way, and then I meet her, and then I have great conversations, and I'm really filled again with the excitement of living and in a very adventurous way, because I've met someone who's very adventurous and I have great conversations. And then I go back to my job, and it's not that my job is boring, but it's just that I need something to keep me going from being not bored. So it's kind of helping me to not get bored before I get bored, something like that. So yes, so I do small adventures. I walked with a friend the west coast of the Netherlands, all the way over the sand. I've been for 2 weeks to Scotland to skateboard. I've been for 2 weeks to India to skateboard and going to that wedding. And that's how I fill my days, with each time a new adventure and a new way of traveling, or a new way of feeling excited about life and doing something else and learning new people and learning new experiences. So that's how I now try to balance the working here and the having this amazing adventures, and then coming back and work again and then look for something new. And I think this gave me a lot of energy to do the stuff I do in Rotterdam, and it gives me a lot of I also, when I go to, this is also the thing, when I'm going to Russia and I cycle in the cold, I can relativate things more easily which are happening here. People are buzzy here about whatever things, and when I'm in Russia, I'm thinking, all the things which stress me out in my job, it's not that big deal, because we are all part of nature, and at some point, this is what matters, and not, running around, having meetings, and then do things which basically are, disappearing in a few years or something, like that. So it keeps me balanced between going out, travel, meeting amazing people, and being at one place, enjoying and accept that my life is here.
When you're trying to look for when you're planning these adventures or things like that, is there any sort of commonality that you are hoping an adventure can include? Like, I know that you are very you seem to really appreciate nature and mountains and the desert and snow. So when you're trying to plan a new adventure, are you trying to make it around some sort of theme, whether that's nature or people, or are you just looking for something to push you out of your comfort zone and help you grow and challenge yourself?
Yeah, I think a mixture. Yeah, I think a mixture of all these things you just mentioned. But I think the first one I would choose is challenge. It's like, if I'm going somewhere and I'm going to have a holiday and I'm in a hotel and I'm laying at the beach, I would get bored very easily. Or I needed to read a really exciting book. Then it's probably okay. But if I just do that, I will get bored. So what I would look for in travels and is that excitement of a challenge. I mean, when I'm going to the Arctic Circle, I know that it's very cold there. I've never been in such cold temperatures, so I don't know what it's gonna do with me. So, and that challenge to deal with that is making a journey for me worth to look forward to, and also, I mean, I could choose for Scandinavia to do this, but then Scandinavia is a more Europe-orientated country, and the people there live similar lifestyles as we do, only in a different region. So, but for example, I would pay with the same currency than I would pay here. And that's why I'm choosing for Russia, because I know it's an amazing country and it goes back years and years. And, also the communism, how it grew up there, how it developed, and how Russia is always like a sort of the enemy of America, and why it's like that, and why these two fight a lot, and how it influences a lot of other things in the world. That's also like the history of a place where I go is also a reason why I go to some place to explore, because if I will be in Russia, I will meet people and they will act some kind of way to me. If I go to Thailand and I meet people, they will act some kind of way to me. And the way they act to me, it has all to do with how their culture is and how it developed over the last few decades. And I'm really, if I meet people, I'm really interested in why are they acting like that? For example, why are people in Iran so hospitable? And why are people in Germany more cold? Or why are people, so all these questions, it makes traveling like worthwhile. And what I want to do each time, I did it on my bicycle also. If I'm going to a place, I'm not a Dutch guy. I'm not trying to be a Dutch guy in Russia or in Thailand. No, I try to be really the Dutch guy who becomes a Thai person or a Russian person. So I really try to adapt the culture. And for example, when I was with my bicycle in China, I sat at restaurants and I was annoyed by all these Chinese people eating the chicken and throwing it on the ground. I was like, why do you do that? That's so disgusting. And at one moment I was like, yeah, but it's their culture, that's the way they do. So I need to accept it and I need to copy that. Because if I copy the things they do here, I would understand it. So I also, would eat my chicken and throw it on the ground and have the feeling of, okay, now I'm a little bit Chinese or something like that, So yes, so if I want to go to a place where it's different. If I go to Germany, it's just that it's Germany, but they almost have the same lifestyle as the Dutch people. So I would choose for Russia. I choose for the other side of the world to experience really the different culture. And that's also something that really excites me in traveling.
Sorry, I know we're at 12:03 right now. Do you need to get going?
No, I mean, there are not people pushing me right now, so just we can just end it, relax, and maybe have some more stories, and just go and let it, end whenever you want.
Okay, I'll ask one or two more questions, and then we'll get down to the end. But so you do talk a lot about, or maybe not a lot, but a few of your posts are about goal setting and a category of personal growth, kind of what we've been talking about. And I really liked your article on setting goals and, New Year's resolutions and taking that time to really pause and reflect on your life and what's going on, where you're at, where you want to be. And some of the categories you had were focusing on a single attribute about yourself that you'd want to change to become more of the person you want to be. Other ones like 3 goals you'd want to achieve by the end of the year and certain habits you want to work on. And I'm curious if you're willing to share any of your responses for these or what you wrote down for maybe 1 or 2 of those, if you're willing to share.
Yes, of course. Yes, that's the kind of the cycle I learned myself to do, is that I'm each year around Christmas, New Year, I just write down the things I value. I mean, I have a few questions how I do it. I ask myself, what is something I want to myself. Like a few years ago, I was having like enormously fears when talking to strangers. So at that time, a few years ago, I wrote down I want to feel comfortable when I'm talking to strangers. And another question I ask myself is what are the people I want to surround myself with? So what do I value in these people, and why do I want them to be my friends? I mean, it sounds a bit weird, but it's like the people I surround myself with. I think it's the 5 closest people who I surround myself with. The average of that people is me, you know. So if I have 4 friends who are married, who are having kids, I'm more likely to go marry and have some kids in, for example, 1 year. If I have 4 friends who are all traveling and having adventures and don't care about marrying and having kids, I will likely to go also traveling and having adventures without caring about settling down. So, and I try to have a mixture of people in my life who really balance me in that, because I value to settle down, but I also value traveling. And I believe it's possible to have them both. So I would have people in my life who inspire me to have them both. And that's how I think consciously about, you know, who are they and why do I meet them? And also making new friends. What do I look for in new people? I mean, if I meet a new friend, maybe it's nice to have a friend who inspires me more about something, you know. So I write that down each year, and I also write down my habits. So now I'm trying to, for example, I'm going to Russia and it's cold. So how can I prepare on cold weather? So yeah, now I start up in the morning and take a cold shower, and you know, and that's what I wrote down in my resolutions. Like I wanna have more cold showers, for example. Some other habit is that I for a long time already I wanted to speak another language that besides Dutch and English and German. So now I try to push myself to learn Spanish, and that I'm pushing myself to learn Spanish. That's also because one day I want to go traveling in Colombia. And if I'm in Colombia, I'm only speaking Dutch and English. I cannot communicate with the people there, and I cannot learn how the culture is. So now I'm trying to learn Spanish at one point. And that's the motivation. I think you always need a motivation to learn yourself one habit. Because if you just learn it from, it's the same what they always say. Like if you're saying like, I need to lose 10 kilogram because I want to look good, it's not going to motivate you to lose 10 kilogram. But if you say, I need to lose 10 kilogram because I want to make first at some game or some thing which really gives a reward, then you might likely to achieve the goal. So I always want to think about, okay, I'm also working on my salsa skills. So how can I learn better salsa? Well, then I need to learn need to understand salsa music better, to understand the rhythms, to understand where it comes from. Oh, it comes from Cuba. So I need to learn something more about Cuba to understand why salsa is salsa. And you know, and one day I will be in Cali in Colombia, and I will go into a bar, and then there is salsa, and I want to go along and dance salsa. So I make myself a goal to learn to dance salsa, and I think in this way your travels become more interesting. Also, if you think about, I'm going to Thailand, but what am I going to do in Thailand? I'm going to get wasted on the beach, or I'm going to meet Thai people and understand why they are Thai people, And white Thai people back in the days said to the French people, "Oh, if you want to invade our country, don't invade, just come and settle down." And there was no war. And maybe that influenced how Thai people are now, and why they are so friendly, and why they are so warm, why it's a warm country, you know. So these goals I write down, it's all connected to the ideas I have of going somewhere and really experience the place where I am. And I think if I'm looking at these goals back in the day, I know that I was thinking about it when I finished my education in economics. So I had the goal to finish my education in economics, and I had the goal to save up 4,000 euros to go travel. And for 2 years I had the goal, and at one point I managed to save it. So I think it's all coming down to dividing your attention to the things you're most likely to have the most rewards from. Can I say it like that? So just that you don't do things that is coming to your way, but you don't like it, but you do it because it's important. But you choose to do the things which are maybe less important, but gives you more in the long term, something like that. And I do this each year. So now I can look back what I wrote down at 2012 and see what I wrote down in 2012 and see where I am standing now. So I also see, I'm conscious about, okay, back in the days I was really that shy guy who didn't want to go out and meet people. And now I'm comfortable in going out and meeting people. That's amazing. So I can give myself a little reward about achieving something, because I think it's really important to stop sometimes and not only think about what I want, but also stop, look back, and just celebrate what you have achieved. And if you don't know what you have achieved, you cannot celebrate it. So that's why I write it down, and that's why I'm being conscious about what I write down. And I think the most important thing about over goals are habits. I mean, if you have goals and you state goals and you try to achieve them, but you don't practice them each day, it's more likely that you're gonna fail in achieving a goal. But if you learn yourself to have habits, and these habits are connected to what you want to achieve, then you can really build something, and then you really change in a way that makes you like the person who you want to be.
You don't have to get too deep into this if you don't want to, but what were some of the ways you found to help yourself kind of get out of your shell, and when you were trying to find or more easily approach people and talk to them and not feel a little bit uncomfortable talking to strangers? What were some of the ways that you found helpful in able to develop that comfort with that and being more social, that allowed you to develop those skills?
I think the most thing that helped me the most is accepting the fears I have, and also seeing why I want to do, why I want to be more social. The answer to that question, to make that answer bigger than myself. So if I'm only looking at myself and think this is why I want to be more social, then it's only myself, and I would feel more likely because I'm only seeing it as something that I want, and it's in my own hands to just say like, oh well, but it makes me so uncomfortable right now, I just let it. It makes me so uncomfortable right now that I don't want to work on it anymore. And but for example, to think about a bigger goal, of a bigger mission, of really, for example, if I want to be a Russian person in Russia, I cannot go there and only cycle in the roads. No, I really have to stop somewhere and approach people. So the bigger goal in that is that I see that this whole adventure is going to another enjoyable level if I am comfortable enough to approach people. So it's not only about myself and being more social. No, it's about having an amazing experience. What even is more amazing when I'm, learning myself these habits of going out and just say, hey, how are you? I think that's the first thing. I would say that really helped me to work on it even more. And the second thing is just go out. I mean, it's really easy to sit at home, to play a game, or to watch Netflix or films or series, and just, I mean, it's good to do. And it's not to say that's not good, but if you really want to be another, or you want to learn a habit, then you need to go out. And what I learned is that at first I had the fear, like, of going out and the fear of being rejected. But at some point you get to understand by doing it a lot of times. I mean, the first time I would freak out, talk to a stranger, freak out, and the conversation would be really uncomfortable with me saying, hey, how are you? And then he would likely, or she would likely, look at me and say, why are you talking to me? And that awkward moment would fade into more awkwardness because I would freak out. The baddest thing what happens is that I just say, oh, I have to go now, bye whatever. Someone you will see probably once in your life and you feel like a freak, but that's it. But if you understand that is just a rejection, or that is just a rejection, that you reject yourself. No one rejects you. It's that just you make yourself awkward and uncomfortable. And like all these things I'm now talking about, you learn by going out. And each person is different, and each person is likely to be different and approach it in a different way. And also tell to other people what you are doing. And for example, if you tell your friend that you are awkward of going to talk to strangers, and your friend knows it, then he will likely push you more into talking to strangers. The thing is, you want to do it, but you will stop yourself from doing it because you are uncomfortable with it. But if you leave that comfort and just for once tell people that, and that people know it, then you would likely be more in the situation that it will happen. And you just need to go out and talk and just feel awkward a lot of times to the moment you don't feel awkward anymore, because it's a process of change. And you cannot change yourself by reading a book and then thinking that it's that way, and then it helps to read a book and then practice it, but you need the practice. So you need to go out and just put yourself in that position you are having fear with. And that's the same for adventure of traveling. You need to go out to some places where you think, I might get robbed there, it might be dangerous there, but at the point you are there, you having the most ever best exciting adventures you wish for. So you need to just step out of that known word to the unknown word, and then you learn from that. I think that helps, to just go and feel awkward, and then you will see.
I think that's a good place to kind of wrap up. That's some really good advice, though. But is there anything that we or I didn't bring up, or I didn't ask, or we didn't really have a chance to talk about that you would like to touch on before we end?
Well, I think it was a great conversation, and you really hit the. You really hit the good spots about traveling and about. And also the talking a lot about the balancing of traveling, and yeah, I think it's pretty good. I like the questions and I like to talk about it. So thanks a lot.
All right, appreciate it. Yeah, there's so many more questions I have. We could talk for hours, I feel like, and but to keep it a little bit manageable to listen to, we'll keep it around here. But I'm really looking forward to hearing more about your journey in the Arctic Circle. Will you be writing blogs or doing videos along this journey, or will you wait till after you're back for those?
Well, I want to write the stories on the road. It's a little bit dependable on what kind of villages or cities I will cycle through and what opportunities I have with the internet connection. But I will definitely write things down along the journey and publish it at one point, and making amazing photos and also put that online. And I'm also working on to make a video about it, but that will be more like a short documentary after the journey, and I will just publish that after I'm coming back, so I can edit that on a computer, because the quality of these episodes of Singapore, they are great, but the quality is really bad in these images. So yeah, I will blog on the way, and when I'm coming back, I will also make an ebook of all the stories and the photos I make. It's like a free ebook I'm gonna make, and I will get it available on my website after the journey is finished.
All right, and if someone wants to reach out to you to maybe ask a specific question about any of your past journeys, or just say hello or show some support for your upcoming journeys, what would be the best platform for that? Is that sending a note on your website, or Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or any of them? I can link them all in show notes too.
Well, I think the best way is just to ask and write a message on my web blog. It's henkvandillen.net, and in the contact page you can just reach out to me and ask questions, and I will answer them, and I really like to answer them. So if you have any, please ask me, because I really want to help and to inspire other people to to travel, because travel is just great, and I think everyone should do it. So yes, through my website. You can also try it through Facebook, but I'm kind of cutting down on Facebook. I'm only posting post on my page, and but I'm trying to cut down on my personal page Facebook, because it's so many information. So I think the best way is to just send me a message on my website, and then I will get back at you as soon as possible.
All right, and there's luckily for us English speakers who don't know Dutch, you do have an English version of your website as well, so I'll make sure to include that in the show notes.
Yes.
But yeah, this is terrific, man. I really am looking forward to hearing about the Russian Arctic Circle adventure. And if you're up for it, once you get back from that and settle down a bit and whatnot, if you're willing to hop on for another interview to talk about that and some other stuff, I'm definitely open for it if you are, and we can talk later on. But just know that the invitation is always available or extended.
Thanks a lot. I definitely will, because I like to talk more in depth about adventure and traveling. So just let me know.
All right. Best of luck, man. And thank you, everyone, for listening. Reach out to Henk if you have any other questions, or to wish him some good luck on his journey. And until next time. Hey everyone, Lee here again real quick with the question of the episode, which is, after listening to Hank's story about losing his Garmin navigation system, have you ever been happy or relieved to lose something material? In other words, have you felt like a material thing has been a burden for you? Head to edgeofcomfort.com/EOCP14, that's the number 14, and leave your answer or story in the comment section at the bottom of the blog post. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to reading your answers. Until next time.